Alright, since the videos are very hit or miss on these, I decided to do my own in case I can help somebody else out. But I've got the Landhero BC280, I believe it's called. And I've seen some other videos. Mine's a little different, don't know why. Different generation. But don't mind my tools there. Choke, a couple gauges, some warning lights, brand new, 0.4 hours. This is the throttle control. Not really whoopee about that. Battery disconnect, horn, electric fan, lights, which is just that little dinky thing. PTO control, main controls. But of course I got to go get fuel. Had just enough to kind of get it off the trailer. But it's like 650 cc, 23 horsepower. Fuel tank obviously is right there. Comes with some tools. Come with a grease gun, a couple of your main sockets. Just not bad. Gotta go get some grease. A couple of the big tools, wrenches or whatever to keep you handy. I heard people complain about access to the battery. I mean, other than where it is, looks like this swings out. Hydraulic cooler. My battery looks like it's pretty accessible. So, it's a twin cylinder or two cylinder. Oh, there's the dipstick. Literally just got this off the trailer. Hydraulic tank. But I'm definitely going to do what other people have done. Kind of look it over for some bolts. I noticed a lock washer in the pan. It's a smaller one, so I assume it's not super important. But it was driven out of the warehouse, got it at an auction. And they hoisted it up onto my trailer since I don't have ramps. I drove it off, operated the boom. Everything seems pretty functional other than the gas light started flashing at me and it's surging. So it's probably basically empty. So I gotta go get some fuel, but while I'm out, I'm gonna get some oil, change the shipping oil. Like most imported stuff, you should definitely, being this has got nearly a half hour on it, that's probably a decent break-in time frame to be running on that oil. So I'll definitely get the oil changed, change it after a few hours or 5 hours of operation. Go through and hit the grease circs again just to make sure. Checking the bolts on the pins, the hinge pins, cover plates. I didn't hear much rattling other than the normal. But and then I was going to do some research on hydraulic, make sure I can relieve the hydraulic pressure, because this is probably not the way you want to be going very long. Vibrations, they're going to start to eat into that, so I'm going to be double checking these fittings. Hydraulic hoses aren't very cheap. I can usually do some at my work for real cheap, but I'd have to wait forever for the fittings. So I noticed that one and this one. So make sure there's no pressure. Loosen that nut, move that out of the way, retighten the nut. Should be good to go. My bracket here is a little bent. I'll have to work on that. But overall, for the $3,500 plus some fees, if this thing gets me no issues for a while, I'd say it was definitely well worth it. That's, if you're lucky, that's 10% of anything else out there, name brand. I've seen brand new dingoes, bobcats, 50, 80 grand, and this one after fees was 4,500. So if you're interested, keep an eye on the auctions. There's a lot of versions out there. I was a little worried about getting this one, but I've been outbid on several other ones, going up for 45 to even 5 grand, and I just wasn't going to pay that much. There's so many of these out there. I just waited and waited and finally got this one. Won the bid at 3,500. So sorry, I wasn't even paying attention to the phone there. So, but we will go through and check all these. Use it on this next bit. All right, after taking a little bit of time to check things over, good amount of grease in there. That's a good sign. But yeah, it just swings right out of the way. Hydraulic cooler. That must be what the electric fan control is for. It's looks like a pretty nice cooler, honestly. Aluminum. But boom, look at all that room. I mean, looks like a lot of room to me to mess with shit if you got to get to it. Batteries right there, nice and convenient, I would say. Seems secure. Maybe could cover that negative. But get access to the throttle cables if need be. I did notice a nut that was loose on my choke, but got that on. That was no big deal. So yeah, there's your main PTO. That's basically doing all the work for you. That's all that motor's here for. There's the filter. It is the Rado 740. I thought it was a 640, but it is a 740. That all the others have. And fuel line, got a filter there. There's your little electric pump. It's very similar to my Kawasaki on the zero turn, honestly. Another filter. I've heard the fuel systems are iffy, so if I can, I'll get some spare filters. Change those after a little bit. Here's the whole cluster of hydraulic lines coming from your control levers. I'm not liking the way most of these are touching, but there's not much room in here to work. But I think I'll go get some wrap and squeeze in between these, and just keep an eye on it. That fitting's touching there, which is part of this conundrum that I don't like either, so I'll be able to hit those at the same time. Alright, so I'm a whopping 9 hours, 0.9 hours into using my new Landhero, and this is pretty flimsy. And if you want to compare, pretty big difference. So quite a bit of playback in here too. So I already adjusted it once. Thought I was good, but with the biggest wrench that they supplied, Loosen up your jam nut. And then I believe going lefty-loosey. And it should be pushing your front wheel out. Feel like it's definitely getting tighter. Of course, like most people, no owner's manual. Oh yeah, that's way tighter. There's still slack here until it gets to moving. I'm gonna take it back a short turn, half a turn. Just make sure you don't want to over tighten it either. So put your jam nut back. It's just that little access pin with 2 bolts. So a lot of people I've heard say there's none of these running, so we're going to do that. So mine's got this electric battery disconnect, off, on. Choke if you need it. If anybody has a clue of the yellow light, let me know. I don't think this works. I think it's automatic, but I'm gonna turn it on anyway. 30% fuel, 60-degree oil temp. I assume it's Celsius. Here's my idle throttle. So if you haven't noticed, I'm not experienced. I just got it. But with time, we'll figure it out. We'll get this figured out. It's definitely for small hobbies, small projects. It should be a great help. Alright, maybe I can give a better video here. This will be day 2 on our imported mini skid steer. This one is the Landhero BC 280. Been doing some work with it. It's been working just fine. No issues yet that should be concerned about. Had to tighten this up. Take the plate off, 2 nuts in there. Pretty simple. So I'll go over a few things I've learned since I unloaded it. For the people, there are no manuals. I can't find any manuals. Nobody else that I know of has found any manuals other than for the engine, the Rado R740. Manuals all over the place for that thing. So, fuel tank, of course, choke, oil temperature gauge. I assume this is the engine oil, and I'm assuming it's reading in Celsius. 60, 70, 80 degrees. Fuel percentage seems to be pretty accurate. Not sure on the red light. Green light, I'm assuming is running. Yellow is the fan. So, after doing some of my own wiring following, you can turn the fan on manually, and then after it reaches a certain temperature, I think it's manual fan. That's what this light's telling you. If the fan is on, turn on manually. After it reaches a certain temperature, it's going to kick on automatically without your input. Battery disconnect. It's getting power, no power. You just need that on to start. Once it's started, you can disconnect it. It's got its own stator it can run off of. There's the hydraulic tank, the lid, the vent. I was really wondering how to loosen this fitting to give it some space. There's other fittings I got to work on to do that too. That'd be something you want to look out for. But you need to relieve the pressure. Best thing, what I noticed, and you can actually hear it, is get it on the ground, get it level, then hit your joysticks every which way. Oh, there's some pressure that just went. And now that it's off, you've moved those around. You should not have any pressure. Just to be safe, slowly undo any fitting you got to do and check it that way. But I'm not a hydraulic guy, so don't listen to me too much. Hydraulic cooler swings out of the way, and it's seems like a solid, nice cooler. So there's that there. There's the electric fan. Battery, mine looks like it's super easy to get to versus other models, generations. PTO drive, oil filter. I got an oil filter that I googled. Hopefully it's right. I'm gonna wait probably till I get to a solid 5 hours. It's hot. This week's supposed to average 90 to 100 degrees, so I did change the oil, put in some 1030 as recommended. The book also says you could use 1540, so I think when I change the oil I will go to 1540. But already got rid of the factory oil, just drained it, left the filter in, drained it. Wasn't the best experience, but lifted it up. There's the plug. Let it drain down this plate. Put my piece of cardboard to get it over to the drain pan I had sitting here. It made a little bit of a mess, but you can see not terrible. The vibration after running it kind of pulled it out of the seams, but there's the drain. Usually to refill it's around 1.5 quarts. If you do the filter, it's around a total of 1.8 according to the engine manual. There's the dipstick, and then that should be your oil fill, the yellow cap on the valve cover, just like an old vehicle dipstick there. There's all your joysticks, wiring, hydraulic solenoids, and all that good stuff. There's your PTO out for different attachments. Like I said, I've already adjusted this track on the other side, but this side I think is still good. I don't know how one side could be so far off from the other, but still pretty good. So controls, as stated, this is the idle, up and down for the actual throttle. Yeah. So just a couple of design flaws that I've noticed is the dipstick back in there, not very convenient. Really got to reach in there past the muffler. Super hot. You know, what would it hurt to put a longer tube and get it up here? Secondly, I'm letting the fan run a little bit, cool off. The temperature gauge is here for the hydraulic oil, which 140 from what I read is like the max that you want, but it depends on the fluid and depends on the system if it can handle that temperature. But I usually check it after running for a little bit, and it usually stays around there. Sometimes it drops. It's a hot day. It's like almost 100 degrees, and I'm out in the field where it can get a breeze rather than in the barn where there's no air. But secondly is the muffler's there, all the heat, the fan's on the other side of this hydraulic cooler, and it's blowing the air out. Now, it's pulling the heat from the engine and blowing it to cool the hydraulic fluid. That's just terrible. So hopefully, I think I'm gonna find a way to either reverse the fan on that, and that way it's not only sucking in outer air that's going to be cooler, but it'll also be blowing the air, cool air from outside to the engine. Now that to me just kind of makes sense. Yeah, it might be blowing some hot air from the radiator into the engine, but I guarantee it's nowhere as hot as that exhaust. So by sucking the outside ambient air that's probably cooler, especially here in the shade, it could be sucking it in rather than trying to blow out that engine heat